Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world. Today I'm going to share with you my version of the alcohol blending technique, and then I'm just going to show you how I put it all together with this card. Slightly unusual fold. It kind of opens up to about 4 by 4.25 by 4.25, but it's a standard size card. Not entirely sure what the fold is called, but I just think it's unusual and gives us an opportunity to display more of this lovely technique. So we're going to be working on vellum. So I've got this piece here. It measures 4 by 3.5, and we're going to create the decorative effect on for both the larger and the smaller at once, and when we're going to trim off the spare 1/2 inch. So we're going to start with some grid paper to protect my work surface, and you'll also need some absorbent paper and a paintbrush. This is an old watercolor pen, but you can use most any kind of paintbrush. And you're also going to need some blends, Stampin' Up blends, and you're going to need some alcohol. Now, the higher the percentage of alcohol content, the better it'll be. Now, this is something that I found in my pharmacy. It's 91%. And then I looked, and don't laugh, but I looked in our cupboard, and I had some grain alcohol, which is actually 95% here. And I've had this bottle probably about best part of 20 years, and you can see there's not a lot gone from it. So it's not really drinking, although I understand from a girlfriend that it can be used to give punch a little bit of a kick. Anyway, I decided I would use this higher alcohol content. And the reason you want the higher alcohol content is that the higher it is, the less likely your vellum will be to curl. Not that this is a problem. Once it's dry, you can always pop it under something heavy to flatten out. But if you want to work quick, then as I say, you'll be able to work a lot quicker if you have the higher alcohol content. So I am going to start with my my blends. This one is Blackberry Bliss, and I'm going to use the brush end. And if you've been watching my series of videos on using blends, I've spoken about making sure you use the when you use the brush side, that you use the actual side of the tip, and that way it doesn't mash the tip. So I'm going to make sure I close that one down nice and firmly, and then I don't think I'm going to use the green. I'm then going to go ahead and I'm going to use the bronze one, and again I'm going to use the side. Now if you watch, I really am just laying sort of random blobs of my ink down. I'm not really taking a lot of care on where it's going. And then my final colour is Mango Melody. Now I'm using the dark versions of all of these blends, and that's because I found that you actually get a better finish, more depth of colour if you use the dark ones. If you are looking for a really subtle pale finish, then you go ahead and use the lighter ones. All I'm doing now is going in and just filling in the gaps, but I am being careful that I'm not touching on the other colours too much, because partly because I don't want them to bleed in one another, and partly because I don't want to get my Mango Melody with any of the other two colours on the tip. Just trying to keep it a little bit clean. So over the last few weeks, I have been sharing some videos with you on using blends. There's something that has been in the catalogue for some time, but I've never really taken them on board seriously, and I made the decision that I would, but that I would learn how to use them in public rather than in private, so that you could see how my skill set was developing. And so that's why perhaps I'm not as quick or as deft as you might expect me to be. So I'm just going to use my brush. I'm not going to put anything in the barrel, but I'm going to dip in, and then I am just going to dot my alcohol around. Before I put it back in, I'm just going to wipe it on my piece of paper, and that will stop it discoloring the alcohol in the pot. Now I'm roughly dotting all over, and then when it's evaporated up here, I'll go back and go over it again, so I'm not getting it too running into one another. And really, that's all I'm doing. And I don't mind if I get some of the darker, rich raspberry off onto the lighter bronze or the Mango Melody, because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for these colours to bleed into one another to get the effect. Okay. So this is quite relaxing. You can go on and add little bits. You could do like a little smoosh here to make it bleed a little bit more with the tip, rather than just relying on the dots. And now this corner where I started, it's evaporated a bit, so I go back in and just give it a bit more of the alcohol. Now, if you find that when you've kind of worked your way through, like I've got one piece here, and there was quite a lot of alcohol on the brush at that time, and it's made it kind of go whoosh, and to clear it. Now you can, when it's dry, and I think it is, we can go, yep, it's dry because you can't see any reflection. You can go and back in with a little bit of one of the colours and just let it to dry for a few moments. It's not really drying, it's evaporating because it's alcohol. There we go. And as I say, it's quite relaxing. You can just go on and just smoosh away to your heart's content. So now you've got the idea, I'm going to just show you how I used it on my card. So I will probably come back and work a bit more on that one at a later stage. But I've got another one that is nice and dry, and we're going to build up the card. So for the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down to it's a square. So as I said earlier, it's 4 by 3.5. So I'm going to square it off by cutting 1/2 inch off the long end. So I've now got my two pieces. Excuse me. And going to build up my card from there. So I'm using Old Olive. That's my card base, and this is 11 by 4.25, and I've scored it at, let's see, 5.5 and 6 3/4. So I'm just going to put my folds in, And this one is going to go backwards on itself like that. And I am going to use some double-sided tape, the tear and tape, just to stick that panel down. And the reason I'm using the tear and tape is that it's stronger than using tape runners like the Stampin' Seal and liquid adhesive. I much prefer to use it rather than those, but only because it's a bit of extra strength. So let's get the backing off like that, and I'm just going to gently fold this over and press firmly. So there's that bit. Now I've got a variety of layers here. So I'm using rich raspberry, so I believe that's 4x4. Then there's a piece of vanilla, which is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. And then I've got my lovely piece of blended vellum. Now I'm loading it onto very vanilla because, as you can see, it gives it so much more of a pop, and it looks, you know, all your hard work is shown. So I'm going to use some, she says, and can't find it, hold on a second. I'm going to use some Stampin' Seal. That one's empty. Well prepared, Cindy. This is an old one, but we're going to use this one. Now, normally when we use vellum, I would say you need to make sure that you put your adhesive where it cannot be seen, because the adhesive can show through. But the ink on all of this is so good that everywhere is hidden, and you won't see this at all. I'm going to layer that on there, and then I'm going to layer it onto a piece of rich raspberry. Make sure it's all squared up. There we go. And then some Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm just using the little ones here, but you can use whichever ones work for you, the regular size ones or the minis. And then just pick off the backing with the pick your tool. And then I'm going to pop that, I think I'll do it that way, and I'm popping that so that it's centered on this panel on there. Now I've got my other pieces, so I'm going to layer those together. Now you don't have to remember all these measurements. If you go ahead and look below this video, you will see a link to my blog, and if you click on that, it will take you to it, and all the measurements and all the supplies will be there. And I've also got a link to my online store so that you can go ahead and order up your goodies so that you can create this. Now this panel I'm just going to lay down with Stampin' Seal. Old habits die hard. I'm not going to use dimensionals on this piece because it might stop the card from sort of opening fully. Okay, there we go. So there's my card. Because I've got so much going on my wonderful piece of alcohol blended vellum, my stamping is going to be very, very simple. I am just going to use thank you, and I'm using the Peaceful Moment stamp set here. The birthday will also fit into the same piece if you wanted to use that one. So I've got some card, I've got my ink pad and my stamp. There we go. And I'm using my Duo Oval Punch. Love this one. Love it to bits. It was the first thing on my order back in December when it was released in the new catalogue, the mini catalogue. And then I've got a scrap of rich razzleberry. Now, as I said, I used the blends, the Blackberry Bliss blend, because the rich razzleberry one retired. However, when I started to assemble the card with the Blackberry Bliss layers, I didn't really like the effect. It was too dark. So that's when I decided that I would go ahead and just take it up a shade by using the rich razzleberry. Alrighty. So there's my greeting. And my final embellishment is one of these beautiful butterflies. Now this is cut with copper foil. And I've used the Brilliant Wings die set here. It's got lots of sizes, lots to choose from. And I've used this on a couple of other projects, videos that I've got on my channel. So we're just gonna pop a mini glue dot on here. And I'm going to pop it on my card, but it's got to stay within, if you like, this 4 1/4 inch square. Otherwise, its little wings will get damaged. So I'm just going to pop it there like that. And there's my finished card. And I have a piece to put on inside, which I'll do in a few moments. So let me show you a couple of other samples I've got, all using different colours. Now, this one, I've used like Poppy Parade, and I think that's Granny Apple Green and Crumb Cake. There we go. This one, I use Night of Navy, Highland Heather and Granny Apple Green. And I think I also used a little bit of the, I'm supposed to go that way. A little bit of the Blackberry Bliss in there as well. And again, I just started with one piece and I just cut it in half and layered it onto Whisper White. This one, I've used Highland Heather, Daffodil Delight, Granny Apple Green, and I did put it through an embossing folder. And you can just see that the effect is there. And then this final one, those three, or the four I've shown you, have all been put onto Whisper White or Very Vanilla. But this one I did, and this is using Night of Navy, Bermuda Bay and Crumb Cake. And I've just layered it onto straight onto the Bermuda Bay. You can see it's a lot more muted, but I think it works quite well with these, with this sort of seaside theme. Okay, so well, I hope you've enjoyed this technique. I hope it's helped you understand a little bit more about what you can do with blends. If you've liked the video, I'd certainly appreciate you giving me a thumbs up. If you don't already, maybe you'll go ahead and subscribe to my channel. That way you'll get notified every time I post a new video. And I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you and bye for now.